Hey guys, this is Jillian of Wigglefish Studio, and in today's video I've done a kind of experimental watercolor painting. Normally when I do traditional art, I prefer to have some sort of solid ink work to go along with it, just because it gives me more of a sense of control, and I'm pretty new to traditional mediums in general. But with this one I decided to just watercolor straight onto the page and then go with a colored pencil technique that I've seen some other artists using. As you can see here at the beginning, I've started with just transferring my sketch onto my watercolor paper using my light box, which is really nice to have now, so I don't have to wait for a sunny day to work on it. Now, I do apologize if some of the parts of the video are a little hard to see. This is my first time recording a traditional piece, so it's kind of trial and error at this point. I just got my camera set up and a lamp, which I think is causing some striations later on in the video, so I apologize for that during this one, and I look forward to fixing that issue in later videos. Now in this next part of the video, I've started adding in some ferns coming out of the top of the skull. At the point of the sketch, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to have coming out of there. I was thinking at first like motes of light or something, but I think the ferns actually give like a kind of cool rooted nature, I guess, if you'll excuse the pun there. And it kind of makes use of that extra space on the page. Again, I apologize if the sketch is kind of faint. Here I've gone in and I wanted to do some nice deep rich greens and purples. So I've started using some tube watercolors, which is another new element for me. I normally use the palette set. But I find that with these I can get a lot richer color and I have to do less layering in the process, though they can be a little hard to control since I'm not used to them quite yet. Now, I said before that this piece was a little more experimental for me, not only in the fact that it's lined with colored pencils, but also in the fact that it's just kind of less planned than more pieces I normally do. Like the plant life coming out of the head, and even some of the texturing and color scheme was very spur of the moment, which was a really fun way to work, but it was also kind of stressful, I guess, in a kind of way. A lot of times when I'm going through pieces, especially with this one, they're the kind of art that it looks pretty bad, at least from my perspective, until I actually go through and am able to finish it, put on those finishing touches. But until then, it's a little worrisome. You know, like, oh, is this going a bad direction? Is this something I should just scrap and start over? But it was really fun to experiment with something, knowing that it was an experiment, and not having that pressure behind it. Now here with the eyebrows is definitely an area that I wish I had been a little carefuler with. They look a little wonky, but I guess if the whole thing is a little rougher, it can kind of blend into that tone. The lips especially were something I was really excited to work on. I'm finally starting to be able to push the pigment around with the brush in the water, instead of just having to set it down exactly where it goes and that being where it stays like I do with digital painting. Now the wash in the background that I'm doing is a little out of camera, but washes are something that are still kind of a challenge for me, at least on larger surfaces. On smaller, like 5x7 papers, it's something that I can work with a little more easily, but it's tougher to get a gradient with just this larger sphere. I think I just need to stop being so afraid to use like large amounts of water. I do think that the rough texture wound up working to my advantage though in the end, just because I added that a textured element of silhouetted plants that you'll see later on in the video that kind of worked with the not so gradient fade in the wash. Now you'll see me using an eyedropper here. A lot of times I'll have issues getting the brush to hold the amount of water I need to get things to just smoothly slide on and not dry too quickly. So I've started using an eyedropper, and it's actually been a really handy tool so far. Now here in a minute, I'll turn off the lamp in the video and you'll kind of get more of an idea of the greens that I'm using. Yeah, if you notice the paints at the neck, the pigment is kind of creeping up past the jawline. And while I kind of like the almost veiny, mossy, like leaching effect it created, it's definitely an instance where I could have been served a little more by patience and just waited for the paint to dry a little bit more, or taken this chance to break in my heat gun, which I've gotten to try with paintings. I'm a little anxious to start using it though, just because it can smoke in the first couple uses, so I'm holding off until I can use it outside a couple times. Here you can see those silhouetted effects in the background I was talking about earlier that I think even though they were really simple to implement, it really added another level of depth to the painting and just made it a little more interesting to the eye. I'm sure there's about a million other things I could do to bring that visual interest in that was a little more complex and more thought out, but for a spur of the moment decision, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I really love adding that colored waterline to this painting. I thought it was, I don't know, it was just another way to tie in the purple, as well as with the nosebleed effect, which I don't know why, but I've been loving adding that to some of my pieces lately. Here's where I went in with the colored pencil. They aren't the best quality colored pencil, and they're not particularly meant for use with watercolors, but for experimentation, I thought it would be good to get just a cheap set that I could go in with, see if I like it before I really commit to a high quality set. And I think it worked out fairly well for this piece. I definitely like using it with hot press paper as opposed to cold press, just because you don't get that rough gap in the line from the texture in the paper. The less tooth, the better in this situation, I think. Now, originally I was going to have some sort of contrasting color on the interior of the skull and at the base of the neck where it's cracking as well. But having that white exposed from the paper, I thought it created such a nice glow to it that it was worth keeping. Yeah, I've been watching some other videos where people are doing paintings on wood planks and they leave that white space and has the wood grain show through, and that's definitely warmed me up to the idea of having that shining through bit that's unpainted. Another thing that was really small and didn't take that much effort, but was, I think, one of the things that had the biggest impact on the piece, was having the white gel pen outline to the whole silhouette. It was a really cool silhouetted effect that helped separate the purple of the skull to the background. And here's the final piece. I am pleasantly surprised with how it turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I am really excited to make more videos, but in the meantime, all my links are in the description below. Feel free to subscribe, comment, like, all that fun stuff. Have a good one.